Hey guys, today I'd like to talk a little bit about SPAZ 2. So today I'd like to do like a three-part countdown on SPAZ 2 and just kind of the main features that I have a problem with. Now, to understand any of these, you may want to have a familiarity with SPAZ 1, which is an excellent indie title from, of course, the same guys there, same studios, same devs. In my opinion, great pair of guys. They were definitely doing great work with SPAZ 1. Not groundbreaking, but at least innovative. It's basically a space game in the similar vein to something like Escape Velocity, Nova and all the way through that. Perhaps something like, think Asteroids, but with a fleet and a whole bunch of enemy ships to contend with as well. In the original game, you were able to put together a fleet of ships with mods sometimes as many as 6 ships. And you could fly around the galaxy and blow up enemies and fight off zombies and pirates and mercenaries, bounty hunters that is. It was a really exciting game, very interesting. It had different phases, so the gameplay changed to keep you interested. I was a big fan at the time that game came out, and I'm still quite a big fan of that game. But when I got SPAZ 2, basically when I saw the gameplay footage for it, I was kind of disappointed because they had taken away the ability to control a fleet. So now you can only control one ship. And I felt that was such a pivotal feature in the first game. It was really part of it, being able to take on a large force because you had a lot of ships to come with you. And you can control them at any time and customize them. So my third big thing is the fact that the fleet has been removed and you're not able to make a fleet. And I realize if you've played the new game, you get little interceptor ships that are actually really nothing but a distraction for the enemy, and you can't really control them as easily as you could in the previous game. Again, this game is early access, so things may change. Probably the second big feature that SPAZ 2 drops that was in SPAZ is the ability to customize your ships easily. This was the ability to put on parts on your ship, and as those ships got blown up, you could reconstruct them because you had the blueprint. So you didn't have to continually take new parts or grab new parts. You would hunt down the blueprints from enemy space stations or buy them from friendly space stations, and then you could develop those parts virtually infinitely as long as you had the resources to do so. Better parts cost more resources, so you had to balance whether you wanted to use the best stuff in the game or stuff that was necessarily affordable for you in the game, in your particular stage of the game. So that's definitely the second thing that's very, very important that I think they lost, is the fact that it's not easy to customize your ships anymore. In the new game, you're forced to scavenge parts or buy them from stations, and once they're blown up, that's it. So you're not really able to customize your ship the way you want to, which is strange because the previous game gave you that freedom. You were able to put on exactly what parts you wanted and tweak your designs over time, making a ship that worked for your gameplay style. Whereas in SPAZ 2, you're really forced to scavenge, and that takes away from the game, in my opinion. And the number one reason that really pisses me off with SPAZ 2 is the fact that it is, in my opinion, largely a clone of a game called Mount & Blade. Now, I'll show some screens here, but basically, many different things about this game are very similar to Mount & Blade. The biggest, I would probably say, is the way the world works. You have a large overworld map in SPAZ 2. It's a big circle, and it's split into factional provinces, basically. Mount & Blade has factional provinces as well. It has a large world map broken up into factional provinces with control points. Whether it be a castle or a space station, doesn't really matter to me. It's a control point in a province of space or land or whatever you want to call it. Then you have stuff like the fact that you basically control one main unit and then upgrade it as you go. And in Mount & Blade, you have your primary unit, your player character in the game, and you get him skills, you get him weapons and armor. And in SPAZ 2, you get skills for your basically largely for your main ship, and then you get weapons and armor and engines and things that you put onto your mothership, and you upgrade him as you go. The other thing is the combat is very similar. The way you move in the two games is actually quite similar. How you would veer left and veer right on horseback, of course, and you would strafe enemies with a bow on horseback and shoot them, or perhaps charge them and ram them with your horse and lance. In SPAZ 2, of course, you turn your ship to broadside with particular gun types that are of a certain kind of broadside cone radius, and then you have ships that are better at ramming. You put on a really good nose on it or something like that, and you ram into the enemy ship. So that felt very similar. And the fact that you don't control your attack craft, they just kind of go on their own. Generally speaking, you don't control your attack craft. You're probably going to be controlling your mothership, which is it's the most valuable unit on the playing board. So you have your mothership, you have your NPC basically craft that are flying around doing their thing. You're like, attack that, attack this. And it's exactly the same as in Mount & Blade, which is, it's really a shame. And then you have the way that you interact with other captains, basically very similar to other lords in Mount & Blade, where you'll have enemy or friendly lords that run around the map with their own kind of prerogatives, their own goals and whatnot. And in SPAZ 2, you have captains that fly around the map with their own prerogatives, their own goals, and you interact with them and you get relationships based on numbers. So you see all these things together, string together an experience that's very similar to Mount & Blade, which I love Mount & Blade. I really, really like it. Hugely looking out for Bannerlords, which is Mount & Blade 2 to come out. It's going to be awesome. I wish I could pre-order. I don't think you can yet. But SPAZ 2 just feels like a pale imitator of Mount & Blade in space. Is this a bad thing? Is this a bad thing? Now, I don't know about that, because people who haven't played Mount & Blade might be like, oh my god, SPAZ 2 is so innovative. Oh my god. What is this? It's beautiful. Maybe it's the fact that I'm a little bit of an older gamer, but I've been playing Mount & Blade for a long time. It's been out for like 10 years? That's a long time, or 8 years? It's been a long time between, the prequel, the original Mount & Blade and Warband. It's been out for a long time. It's old news. And then we waited 3 years for this guy. And that's my big point, is we waited three years for this guy. That's 6. We waited 3 years for this guy. And that means that, they had all this time. And I get it, guys. I get it. I really, really, really like Mount & Blade 2. That's great. And yeah, it's cool that's in space. But why did you not just call this game, like, I don't know, Ship and Gun or something? Like, Ship and Gun? You could have called it something like that instead of taking SPAZ, which is, I don't know, a lot of people really like SPAZ. The reviews are pretty positive for SPAZ 1. Why do you take that and then you cram Mount & Blade in it? You're like, oh man, faction system, that's awesome. Yeah, factions are great, but not exactly the same faction system as Mount & Blade. You could have made your own faction system. SPAZ 1 had a faction system. That was cool. Or you could have been like, oh man, we have a fleet in SPAZ. Maybe SPAZ 2 we could have a bigger fleet, or different dynamics where we can send small fleets off or something like this. But instead, you take the gameplay and you're like, squish that gameplay down. We don't want too much gameplay in this thing. Just burn it. And nobody likes that. Nobody wants their gameplay beaten into the ground. What the heck? What? Okay, so basically, Mount & Blade, SPAZ 2, very samey. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you found it entertaining. Like, share, subscribe, and all that kind of stuff. Good stuff. That's the good stuff. And yeah, I'll be back next time.